Hello, let's discuss on conservation of wildlife. There are different strategies for conservation of wildlife. So the main step for conservation of wildlife includes enforcement of law to stop poaching and hunting. Second is restoration of the habitat of the wild animals. The third step is establishment of national parks, sanctuaries and biosphere reserves. And the fourth is prevention of competition of grazing between the domestic animals and the wild animals. So these are some of the main steps that are involved in the conservation of wildlife. Now, under this conservation of wildlife, let's discuss on national park. What is national park? National park is an area reserved for the welfare of the wildlife, and in these parks activities such as agriculture, grazing of cattle, even cutting of trees, etc. These are totally restricted, and a perfect living conditions are provided for the wildlife, that means the wild animals. Now, the first national park that was established in India was Jim Corbett National Park. Now presently it is in Uttaranchal. Now let's discuss on sanctuaries. What is sanctuary? Sanctuary is also a protected place for wild animals. Now this sanctuaries is a protected place both for animals and birds. Here in sanctuaries, commercial activities such as collection of minor forest products, harvesting of timbers, and even private ownership are allowed, subjected to the condition that these activities of the human do not disturb the peaceful living environment of the animal concerned. It may be pointed that national park houses only animals, but these sanctuaries house both birds and animals. There are around 492 wildlife sanctuaries in India. Now the third topic, let's discuss on biosphere reserve. What is a biosphere reserve? A biosphere reserve is a protected areas where peoples are allowed to interact with the animals without disturbing the conservation goals. This biosphere reserve composed of three zones. The first zone is the core zone. This core zone is a zone where no human activity are allowed at all. The second zone is the buffer zone. This buffer zone is a zone where limited human activities such as for educational purposes or scientific purposes are allowed. And the third is the manipulated or the transition zone. This is a zone where human activities are allowed, like grazing or agricultural activities. These are allowed. So there are three zones in the biosphere reserve, and the main objective of the biosphere reserve is to conserve the representative samples of the ecosystem and to promote and facilitate the basic and the applied research as well. Now let's discuss on national parks and sanctuaries that are present in Nagaland. The first one is Intanki National Park. In Nagaland, we have only one national park, that is Intanki National Park, located in the Peren district. This Intanki National Park has an area of 202.02 square kilometer, and it houses various wild animals such as hollow gibbons, sloth bears, leopard, barking deers, and even flying squirrels and many other animals. Now the second is the Fakim Wildlife Sanctuary. Fakim Wildlife Sanctuary is located in Kifiri district, and this sanctuary is rich in flora like khasi pine, oak, gamari, elder trees, and some animals like hollow gibbons, panthers, tragopan pheasants, and even green pigeons. So these are some of the flora and fauna in which this Fakim Wildlife Sanctuary is rich. Now the third is the Gosu Bird Sanctuary. Gosu Bird Sanctuary is located in the Zunheboto district, and this Gosu Bird Sanctuary is rich in birds like Himalayan black bulbul, black-breasted thrust, and even grey-hooded warbler, etc. So these are some of the unique birds that are found in this Gosu Bird Sanctuary. The fourth is the Pulebaze Wildlife Sanctuary. This Pulebaze Wildlife Sanctuary is located in Kohima district and having an area of around 9.23 square kilometer. And this Pulebaze Wildlife Sanctuary hosts various wild animals like bleak tragopan, white-snaped Euhina, and among the rare species of bird. So these are some of the rare species of birds that this Pulebaze Wildlife Sanctuary hosts. Now let's discuss on poaching, hunting, and biopiracy. What do you mean by poaching? Poaching refers to catching animals, birds, and even fishes, etc. from the place without permission or taking the authority of the particular place concerned. So this is the meaning of poaching. Now hunting refers to the practice of chasing and killing the animals either for sports or for food. And the third is the biopiracy. Biopiracy means the unauthorized and uncompensated use of biological resources. When we say biological resources, we are referring to living resources like plants, animals, or even birds. So when we say biopiracy, let's take an example. If a multinational company or any company come to Dimapur and uses the bioresources or biological resources of Dimapur without taking the authority of the Dimapur people concerned, and also at the same time not compensating the people of the Dimapur for using the biological resources, then that is the meaning of biopiracy. Now, measures to prevent poaching and huntings are, the first one is awareness should be created among peoples. The second is punishment should be given to the poachers and hunters, and laws should be created by the governments of India against poaching and hunting. There are various laws to control this, but due to lack of evidences, these poaching and hunting are still going on. So these are this is all about chapter 3.